want to move on from Ricochet, pal? Do you want to have a general discussion here, pal?
Yeah, let's do it. So I mentioned at the top that we're going to talk about wrestling burnout, and we all go through this. I mean, I think everybody that I know that's a really pretty big wrestling fan has had periods where they're like, I don't pay attention to it as much, or I didn't watch here for a year or 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
wrestling is a lot. No, it's unlike any other form of entertainment, any other sport, anything really, like any hobby, is always there. There's gonna be 7 hours of WWE weekly on television, and now with AEW, you've got 4 or 5 hours of that weekly on television. That's 12 hours weekly of 2 major American wrestling promotions. That's 12 hours worth of content every week. Top of that, you got sometimes 2 PLEs in a month for WWE, sometimes 2 pay-per-views from AEW in a month. It's a lot. And then on top of that, all the podcasts and the YouTube shows, especially with AEW. If you don't watch Being the Elite, you could miss like what's going on Dynamite. It gets to be a lot, you know. And then there's times where, like, there's times where people just collectively take a break. Even like the people that cover this for media, like even like, you know, like you could tell even when Meltzer's like checked out, and like Brian Alvarez and like those guys, you could even tell when they're not really paying too much attention. And I feel like you and I, myself particularly, I'm in that mode right now. I'm just so burnt out. I mean, it's been since November when CM Punk showed up in WWE. No, actually, back it up. It's been a year. It's been since All In August when CM Punk punches out Jack Perry, gets fired by Tony Khan with cause, pal. And we've been on a year now, literally a year nonstop of huge WWE headlines, whether it's The Rock showing up at day 1 or The Rock beating up Cody. You know, the Vince McMahon news, that's whenever that drops, that's a bombshell. You know, we get Vince McMahon news every 3-4 months. Punk showing back up at WWE. Punk and Triple H breaking the internet. You know, you name it. But like,
and then all the angles on screen, like there's actually been stuff to go over. There's been things happening. There's been international shows. There's been like a million different things going on. There's been new wrestlers breaking out, debuts. There's been returns left and right, news, drama. Not so much behind the scenes at WWE, but AEW behind the scenes. There's AEW signings. It's a lot of stuff. What I will say, wrestling is so unique that there's no off season. Like there isn't like a WWE thing where they go, okay, we're going to go balls to the wall until WrestleMania, then we're going to have a month off, and then we're going to return and knock it out until something. Wrestling as a whole, AEW has the same thing. Like every wrestling company, it's year round. Which, because with most sports, pal, like I don't know about you, I assume most people are sort of similar. Let's say we'll use the NBA as the example. You have like so many games. It's an 82-game regular season, the playoffs, MLB's, whatever, it's 100 and something games, playoff series, so much baseball. You get to the end of the season, you're like, okay, my team's done for the year. This team's the champion. Okay, deep breath. Let's have a couple months. Don't need to think about that for a bit. I've watched enough baseball. I can really recharge and get a thirst going for next year in a few months. That's usually what you think with most sports. With wrestling, obviously, you do WrestleMania, the biggest event of the year, the big build, the grandeur, the spectacle, the magnificence, the moments, everything. Triple H leaves the WrestleMania stadium at 2 a.m. and then has about 3 hours sleep. Then he's back the next day to book Raw and then get the next TV cycle going. And it's like, it's fair play to one. I mean, people in positions like Paul Levesque, even Tony Khan, like the ones in those head positions, it's so hard. Like because as people, you're not traditionally wired. It's not in the nature to be just wired 24 go year round for 4, 5, 10, 20, 40 years as Vince did it for. It's not normal. It's like it's crazy. So I mean that's just from the behind the scenes. For us as fans, right? It's much the same. Like you have like wrestling is wrestling. Matches are matches. Nothing changes year round. Yes, maybe some different storylines. Maybe the angles are a bit different. What's happening on the show might be a little different. Yes, it's still just wrestlers in the ring. Wrestlers cut price. Wrestling doesn't change, but it's obviously 24/7, 24/7, 24/7. So you go through those periods where yeah, it's a bit like cool. Like we're 7, 8 months out from WrestleMania. We're getting the PLA shows like every 3, 4 weeks now. Like there's a PLA every 3 weeks. That's part of your point. Like we discussed this when we were discussing our content in like April. We just finished WrestleMania. It's been a massive WrestleMania season. This year's WrestleMania was so action packed, so much news. We were on here doing extras every 2 or 3 days. You get to WrestleMania, and then after it, pal, there's Money in the Bank. There's a show in Saudi. There's Bash at Berlin. There's I'm forgetting like 2 or 3. There's like a million different shows. It is a lot. Yeah, pal, I guess thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in a year where you and I are getting on here about to click record, and we're like, wait, there's nothing to talk about. There's no headlines. There's no big PLEs coming up. We did the All In extra yesterday. There's nothing to talk about, and we both could kind of take a relief and just breathe a little bit. And we haven't had that. It's been crazy, and it's a lot to keep track of, Yeah, and I couldn't even imagine behind the scenes doing it. I mean, getting paid what Triple H gets paid, and a lot of those writers and the crew members, what those guys are getting paid makes it worth it for sure. But even still, at some point, man, you need to reset, and I don't think Paul Levesque's taking any vacations.
Yeah.
Maybe he misses a SmackDown once every 7-8 months or something.
Yeah.
But he's there every night. Like you said, he's closing out WrestleMania. It's 2-3 in the morning. He's right back up 7-8 a.m. getting ready, doing media, doing a podcast interview, going to write the whole show, going sneaker shopping with Complex. Like, I mean, I couldn't even imagine running that hard, bro.
Yeah, and I get it. It goes back to like the people in those. I mean, Paul Levesque or it's like Tony Khan and like ones like that. Yeah, obviously, like their income, like they're getting obviously paid quite a bit for those positions, as they should be, because there is no off switch, and that's I mean, for them, especially, I mean, for us as fans, I mean, as you say, like when there's Bash at Berlin and the matches, there's either rematches or it's matches that are a bit like, as we'll discuss in our preview in a few days' time, it's a bit like, okay, sure, whatever. And then AEW's got their thing going on. So us as fans, if you're just like not that into what's going on, it's like, okay, maybe I'll come back next week, or I'll tune in at the PLE and I'll get back in the swing of things. With these guys, as you say, it is just like, it is 24/7. It is a non-stop industry, which makes me respect. I mean, we talked about Cena earlier with his Club Shay Shay interview. What Cena did in his position for a solid decade. A year's a long time in anything. 10 years is a damn long time. And Cena was like the face of the company by far for 10 years, objectively. And even then, many say he's still the face of the company into 2017 and like even that time period. Like, it's unbelievable. But yeah, the general discussion about, the burnout and like how you manage it. I mean, from our point of view as fans and you guys as listeners, we're not in the biz. We're not the ones writing the shows. But for us, it's more so when you've got headlines happening all the time and you've got, these big shows being built up to in multiple companies. WWE's got PLEs every 3 weeks, quite literally every 3 weeks, an international PLE. AEW, I mean, in this case, at the moment, it's All In. They've got, big things happening. There's always a big match happening in AEW. There's a big 5-star match, a big 4-hour PLE event in AEW they're building up to all the time. And that's just like the 2 main companies, not to mention all the other stuff that people dabble in. There's, New Japan, there's Ring of Honor wrestling people watch, there's Impact, TNA, there's any indie that might be in your local area, pal. I know in Australia at the moment, there's the Slam Pro Wrestling League. I'm going to be going to watch like one of those indie shows in a couple of months. That's going to be hilarious.
That's exciting.
We're going to give a review of the Slam Pro Wrestling League, pal. That'll be fun. But yeah, there's so much stuff always happening in wrestling. It is nonstop. So yeah, it's worth discussing, I think. I mean, because it's so much. So
yeah. I mean, I have that feeling right now, man. I'm just so I'm so burnt out, honestly. But hey, we're here. It's just watching wrestling. Sometimes what helps me too is getting back to the basics. Just turning on SmackDown and just watching it. Just forgetting, thinking of angles and stuff to talk about and coming up with ideas. Just watching SmackDown and just letting it play out in front of me.
Yeah.
And that helps.
Pal, I don't want to keep circling back because obviously this discussion generally is meant to be more so about like, yeah, what you said there, our views as like fans, as wrestling media, as we are, and like our perspective on that. But I just keep thinking about, for someone like Paul Levesque, who's been steering the ship, leading this operation now, this is into the third year, just non-stop, go, go, go. We said it with WrestleMania. WrestleMania ends, the big shabam, the moment with Cody, like people are crying, hugging. It's like the season finale. Goes home, comes back 5 hours later. You're into booking Monday Night Raw. What's happening? Live event matches, match cards. Who's wrestling who at the live show in Kansas in 2 days' time? I don't know. I don't know how it goes. Obviously, there's the money. There's the insane passion for wrestling. The fact that like he's in that role, I get it. I have so much respect for Paul Levesque. Like that's just him especially. But it's someone like Tony Khan who runs Fulham. Well, he's linked heavily to Fulham FC, and he's linked heavily to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and his all the things he does there, and All Elite Wrestling alone. These people don't function as normal people. People joke about Tony Khan with the powders and Snowman and all this. To do what he does, you don't function. Like, most people just day to day, pal. I know what your day to day life is. The people and listeners, you're probably the same. Most people need at least one coffee or need like some caffeine, or most people have multiple coffees just to like almost like wake themselves up and be like functional and stimulated. I'm not into coffee or tea or anything.
Me neither.
I don't know, which is good. You shouldn't need to be stimulated using caffeine. Anyway, that's a separate discussion. Most people need that. These guys like are just constantly on, and you have to be on in these positions. There isn't an off switch. No. And for Triple H and whatever to have, obviously 3 children and his wife and all this stuff that goes on, the family. I've so much respect for the people in those roles. As much as we bag Tony Khan, and I get it. Obviously, it's we're wrestling media, wrestling fans. Yes, leadership isn't always there. Yes, is he like a money mark? A wrestler's using him for cash? Yeah, okay. We know all this stuff. But to do what he does, you're up 18 to 20 hours a day, and it is go, go, go. Phone's blowing up all the time. There's always an issue. There's always someone whinging, someone complaining, media bagging you out. Much respect for these people who do this because it's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
But that's just my opinion.
Absolutely. All right, pal.